Lydical, a series ahead of us that I think will go very fast because these two have no chill. VortiX versus Anotand.
And we're heading back to the domain of matchups that rarely happened before. In fact, just looking at this one real quick, VortiX versus Anotand only played 3 times in the history. None of those, except for the very first matchup they played, was in a major tournament. Last time they played in a major tournament against each other, which was also the first time they've ever played against each other, it was in the Golden League 2, round 3. I think what's more interesting, though, KP, is that all of the matches that they've played against each other, it was in an era where Anotand was more like a lower tier challenger to these pro players.
Yeah.
It was before he started that or that streak of massive improvement that we've seen from him the last 6 months or so. Hence, VortiX is unbeaten in this matchup so far historically. It's going to be interesting to see how Anotand is going to play this, though, because again, none of those matchups happened in a period where Anotand was as good as he is right now.
Yeah, and you know what? If being good isn't good enough, like how about getting the Roost to round out your draft? Like I mean, Anatand's draft looks absolutely succulent. He starts off with an H3 pick, he ends with a Roost pick. Like in between, Malians have been looking pretty strong in these map pools. Abbasid actually looks phenomenal on a lot of these maps. Mongols situationally can work on certain maps. I think maybe he's aiming towards floodplain there. But what's interesting is the way we're going to open up with the, some of the new civs. Dry Arabia is going to be Byzantines versus Iabids. Now, this matchup is quite interesting. I feel like it's been favoring the Byzantines recently. Iabids fast castle can be a little bit of a predicament, but I've seen the production speeds of the Byzantines at work. I've seen them just reach castle, and you'd think that they build Limitane against camel lancers. They don't. They just spam Varangian because they get so many out. So kind of curious to see what VortiX's solution is going to be to that, because recently with these castle rush games, I feel like I've been seeing the Byzantines come out ahead.
Well, we shall see, as we'll be heading into game number 1 of this best of 5 between VortiX and Anotand. We're kicking off this series with a game on Dry Arabia, with VortiX in command of the Iabids in yellow, facing off against Anotand's Byzantines in red.
And a very beneficial spawn for VortiX as well, it has to be said. Gold and stone right next to each other, retracted. This is perfect because you can easily set up an outpost and then have gathered the stone beforehand, right? Or just walk over afterwards. So a lot of things to actually like about his spawn. It does give a priority point for Anotand to attack. One annoying thing that you can encounter as Ibids here is if Anotand decides to go for Lombos, one group of Lombos means you have to basically build double outpost here, which is quite annoying for Ibids. It does set them off their timing a bit.
Yeah, looking at the maps real quick here, we do have a forest spawning on the front for both of these players. Gold mines, though, not so great for VortiX specifically. His gold mine is kind of out in the middle of nowhere. It's going to be difficult to defend in the long run.
Oh, no, I think that's fine. Like, because look at the stone. That's my point. Like I was just saying, you literally can just walk over, grab the stone for arrow slits, and then drop an outpost afterwards.
Yeah, sure enough. Outpost can defend this. That's all nice and cool. When considering maps, I always look at, like, okay, what happens when there's a big force coming your way? When a simple tower isn't going to defend it, or dare I say a town center isn't going to defend it. And when you look at Anotand's base layout, for instance, that gold is nicely tucked away at the back, so it's a lot easier to defend in the long run.
Well, the cooler thing here, actually, is what Anotand's done in the opening. I've noticed he's been doing this more and more, the double scout opener. He's one of the few players consistently doing this at the moment with a lot of different civs. It's a cool idea, though, right? Because you starve the safe resource, the Ibids. In this matchup, that's the woe to them, right? Because they want to go berries first and then fall back onto sheep. If they only have a handful of sheep, their run is limited. It's possible that a Byzantine player can go for that massive unit you were talking about, because VortiX doesn't have a recovery arc of, I can get 20 Gulums together and push him back. What a cool idea. I'm wondering, like, should be Grand Winery. And I imagine we're going to be looking at some early Lombos for pressure. It should be Desert Raider coming out from Iabids. Like, honestly, I don't know about you. I think Iabids are due some big tweaks. Like, the efficient build is so locked in, there's very rarely any deviation from it. In fact, I think Anotand is one of very few players that has been doing weird, different things in Feudal Age.
Yeah, I think this is going to be an interesting matchup in that regard. Anotand is definitely no stranger to going for weird builds, and VortiX himself is someone that's very creative with his build orders, but so far a fairly conventional start, Grand Winery coming in for Anotand, as you would expect. And
no,
on the opposing side, I think it was reinforcement, right?
Yeah, you said that creativity. Let's click on the Ibid House of Wisdom and see that creativity in action. Wow, what a diverse
Well,
civ. I've never seen that before.
he is creative, but this is not the time to be creative yet, okay?
I mean, you say that, dude. If this is Anotand, he would do it on logistics. I'm just saying. I've seen him do it. Dude, guy is wild. You know what he would have done? Like, I can tell you exactly what he would have done in the spawn. Anotand would have went logistics, and he would have pushed the deer in with the dervishes. I'm not even kidding. Like, the guy does some weird, wonderful things. But yeah, it's pretty much locked in. Like, reinforcement into growth wing is by far the most efficient of choices.
Yeah, it's a double scout play as well from Anotand, by the way, something that we haven't yet touched on. So
We did.
he should have the lead in terms of sheep. In fact, let's take a look at the sheep count between the two players.
Well, the whole idea here is he wants to starve out the food so that VortiX can't go for a massive meat units without playing out the map. So it's a really smart play. Like, the next step should be Anotand shoving the deer away so that he has no backup food. So yeah, we've got 6 sheep here. If you check the deer nearby, Anotand is already griefing it. Like, this is so... Man, this is why I love watching this kid. He's so articulate with the way that he addresses early game.
Yeah, and I think this is a good time, KP, to talk about the fact that Anotand also has a new layer of support behind him as a player because he recently joined the MYI team. So he's actually a team member, or a teammate, I should say, to Mista, for instance, My Insanity, adding a new player to their roster.
Yep, Mr. Zerton and Anotand, all members of My Insanity now. I think there's been rumors about it. There's never been a confirmation, but I think the idea is 3D Clan are maybe pivoting away from AOE IV. I know a lot of the other members of the 3D Clan have had a big interest in either Zero Space or Stormgate. And I believe I talked to Anotand, and he just briefly said they weren't really games of interest to him. So he's an AOE IV boy for life.
Well, it's good to hear, but indeed, now he's got another organization backing him. And he might need the help of that organization because the first Desert Raiders are coming in, and these guys can be very oppressive. Of course, a unit that's so versatile. It's a high mobility unit, but it's also one that performs well in melee and as a range unit as well.
And archery actually coming out. That's quite unorthodox. Not many Byzantine players do this. Most just build an outpost on the berries because you get stone anyway, so you can afford arrow slits. But this is a more all-in approach, so I'm wondering if Anotand is going to try to pressure in Feudal here instead of allowing it to go to castle.
Yeah, he's getting some arrow slits going for himself, but he's piling up. VortiX is piling up resources, so that's going to be a castle age.
What an unexpected build here from the Ivids.
Yeah, talk about
never gonna let us
creativity,
go.
right?
So here's the thing. I get a build being optimal, but like the thing that sucks with Ivids is like this is the optimal build because all the others just feel underwhelming, really. Like I feel bad for them, but at the same time I don't because of how strong this build is, right? Like I wish they had more options. But definitely when they get them, this one needs to be nerfed.
Well, Castle Age will be on the way for him. On the other side, I'm not exactly sure what Anotand is planning, but so far it's just a handful of archers coming out. This can be easily dealt with from VortiX's
Oh, he's
side.
going for the mercs. Yeah. So Anotand actually loves the neutral mercs more than any other player in the game. I've seen him do this on so many different maps. Is this Sipahi by any chance? I know he's a really big fan of Sipahi. It'd be a bit weird here against Camel Lancers, though. Check the neutral trade post.
Yeah, I love this approach. It's Sipahi plus Arbaletier. This is, I think, one of the more underrated elements of Byzantine gameplay, and we've seen that in the very early days of Byzantines, players experimenting with this approach, just dropping that mercenary house right next to the neutral trade post, thus unlocking some mercenaries that they normally couldn't.
And remember, when you go for neutral trade post, you get an increased production rate anyway, so not having a system nearby doesn't hurt. It's actually better at this stage in the game. Sipahi is a really cool idea as well. It just gives them a raiding cav, and it completes the triangle, right? You've got archers Limitane, and now you've got superior cavalry.
Yeah, the problem is that all of this will just collapse against Camel Lancers, because that's going to be a unit that can match your mobility, and it's also going to be a unit that hard counters your cav, and it also does very well against all these archers. So I feel like...
But that's why you have Limitane, right? Like, that's the whole point in this build. Because check the food for VortiX, right? Like, that's the whole goal of what... And this was all by design. He went double scout in the opener to make sure VortiX didn't have enough food. He griefed the deer, so he couldn't shove the deer in. He's now playing flank resources against Sipahi. Sipahi are great raiding units. Like, I really like Anotand's build here.
I don't disagree. My main concern with the Limitari, and that's usually the problem in pro games, is lack of mobility. I'm very much into mobility, and I feel like the issue for Anotand could be what happens when a single Camel Lancer makes his way into his base.
You're that person that just wants to have, like... what's the Bugattis, right? All about your mobility. Sometimes it's about like the fineness in it. You know, like maybe you want a Porsche instead. Maybe you're a big fan of a. Okay, I'm not going to go down this line. We need to be sponsored by a car company before I do this. You know, maybe you want luxurious ride. That's what Sipahi Archers is to me. You know, and I think this can hit pretty hard. He should understand what's happening on the map. In fact, look at the way he's moving now. Dude, this is like a hunter-seeker squadron right now to the south side.
I love how Anotand is posturing across the map. Like, he's splitting up his forces. He actually lost one of the 2 scouts he had. He's definitely looking for VortiX. Now, one thing he missed out on was that expansion to the south berry patch. So right now, VortiX does have berries to work with, but he's not really queuing many units, and it looks like Anotand is about to find these vills.
So he knows about the berries, but he hasn't gone there yet. He's moving across now. If he comes in with the east side force first, there's nowhere to run for VortiX. And remember, VortiX does not have wheelbarrow.
Yeah, I think he initially missed the villagers that were moving out.
Here we
go. So he wasn't expecting them. Yeah, you see.
He sees it.
Now he sees it, yeah.
Anno, please.
He's slow to respond, though.
There's so many groups on his screen right now. Oh my god.
I think he genuinely didn't know that villagers went there. He missed them as he was, or as VortiX was moving out. And as a consequence, he just sent a unit there to check it, but he wasn't expecting anyone to be there. Thus, he didn't see the villagers when they moved away.
Ram's coming in. Like, Anotand has to go through this now. Like, here's an interesting detail. Check the sheep. There's like none, right? There is now 600 extra food on those berries. But if you take out this outpost, he can't gather them.
It's not even about the berries or the gold at this point. It's about the army count. You have a 5 times army lead compared to your opponent. You gotta go with this because you have a lot of opportunities to do damage here. Even a single hero siphon is going to do so much. And you do have a decent army to push in with. You do have the Limitani, which are resistant to arrow fire. You have a lot of archers, and even some Sipahi, which is a very awkward thing to have as a Byzantine player.
VortiX got plenty of gold, doesn't need to be in the area for that, but needs to try and hold this delay, buy enough time to get more troops. God knows he needs everything he can get. He's even getting textiles. Might have to man the front line with the villagers. Gulim's got to be careful. Throwing them away like this at the beginning is how you lose games. Remember, Sipahi can stab over the top of the Limitane, so you don't even lose your premium unit first. And instead, he loses the Desert Raiders. Got to respect how powerful the Sipahi are.
VortiX is an elite micro player, though, so if there is one person that can micro his way out of this, it could be him, and he's taking out the hero Siphon. Ram goes down, Sipahi will get repelled, and the tower is still standing.
He's allowing the berry gathering as well. Like, Anotand is so fixated on this tower, but I don't think it's your critical point of entry here. Just starve the food. Do not let him get these Gulim numbers up.
One underrated element here is that this tower is reinforced and it has arrow slits. So VortiX knew that the aggression was coming that way and he wasn't well prepared. Made it a lot more difficult for Anotand to take that tower out.
Yeah, another Kara Siphon coming in. I think the more that Anotand obsesses over this gold vein, the more likely he is to lose this game. He has got an outpost on the north side, right? So he should see this. If he wraps the Sipahi now, could do some serious damage.
Yeah, he should know that VortiX is struggling for food very badly. Once again, it's going to be a question of whether he actually sees it. Because we've seen that with the berries to the south. He had vision, but he didn't actually see it.
I feel like VortiX is playing him right now. Like, Anotand is way too tunnel vision on this. I mean, the gold has been depleted, right? Like, he's down to 15 reserves, so he needs this again. But still, there's easier targets. And now with the Manjanique out, this is bad news. Kara Siphons have less health than standard Rams.
And you have a lot of, like, low HP or / fragile units in your army, the Limitani and the archers. Just 1 or 2 Manjanique hits can decimate that army very quickly. Sipahi are finally peeled off, so looks like they will be contesting that berry patch. But there's the first Camel Lancer, and VortiX knows what's coming. He knows exactly that Anotand is rotating to the north. The game sense here from VortiX is just absolutely monstrous.
I mean, it's an interesting example of how having more vision is bad, right? Because Anotand has too many things to look at, and VortiX doesn't. Like, that kind of condensed focus has made this much simpler. Interesting dive onto the fortified outpost here. We'll retreat away from that.
That was a terrible move. I didn't like that move.
Yeah, it's like you need food, and that's the one way that you don't get food, right? It's like if your villagers are trying to burn stuff down. Manjanique, he's going to get dove here. Villagers should be able to keep it alive, though.
Yeah, and that Manjanique gets some crazy shots in there. Most of the archers are gone. I think VortiX will jump the hero Siphon with Vills now.
Yeah, I think this is over. Like, Anotand has lost way too much. He's still an entire age behind. You just can't lose this many archers when you make this type of dive. I think, looking back at this, the critical error was just not blocking the food. If he just focuses on the food, VortiX can't get this many Gulam together. And sure, he can like maybe trade gold for food, but the rates he's going to get are going to put him behind. Instead, Anotand's only recovery arc now was to try and sneak Castle Age.
Yeah, to his credit, he is facing a very tough opponent over here. Like, VortiX is an insane micro player, and that's shown by the fact that despite all this aggression, he only lost 2 villagers over here. That's remarkable. And again, I feel like Anotand had a couple of missed opportunities. As you kind of highlighted, he actually had too much vision, so he kind of missed out on some important details. He missed the villagers to the south, and he tried to target this gold mine instead of going for the food. Of course, it's easy for us to say because we see the resource situation, but in hindsight, if he goes for the food, things would have been a lot more difficult for VortiX.
Yeah, and now keep in mind with this Castle Age play on the way, he has at least got Grand Winery, so there's a route to recovery and that he'll have the Vrangin spam. And Vrangin aren't terrible up against Gulams, right? Like, the numbers always favor you. But your Constriction has failed, right? Like, now you're going to see a world in which VortiX moves down the south side, he's got the berry, he's got the deer there. And Anotand isn't going to be there to block him at a critical time when not only is he going for food, but he's also going to start going for relics.
And the Dervishes can easily pick up those relics over there. Sipahi might actually intercept the Dervish there, but instead...
Psych! Repair squad! Dude, Sipahi are wild. He did have that the fortitude there, so did end up losing Sipahi quite quickly.
Yeah, Manjani goes down, but VortiX is moving out to the very south now. I think he's going to wall off that little choke point to the south, and he's also mining a lot of stones, so it might just be for a TC. Yeah, VortiX has a lot of wood in the bank, so he just wants a TC here.
Secure on the south side berries, so food issues are about to come to a full stop soon for VortiX. Golden Horn Tower is coming in. I mean, this is where I think you just have to go for a more static comp. He's probably going to have to open crossbows to address the Gulams, but that's scary, right? Like, in a game where VortiX doesn't have much food, you're offering him an easy way now to go into archers.
And at the same time, Camel Lancers are making an appearance. And now that Anotand is not pressuring the base of VortiX, VortiX is going to have that highly mobile unit that can also do a lot of damage with quick raids. Sipahi could swoop in here. This could be nice for Anotand, but VortiX, once again, quick to react, still loses one of those heavily damaged villagers.
I've got the TC now coming off the berries, though, and I don't think Anotand sees it anymore. Did lose the outpost on the north side, so by the time he sees it...
Anotand is actually going for the other berry patch.
I don't think this works at all, though.
No, it's Limitani only. This one does, though.
Ooh, the double-pronged assault there. Fortitude activated to maximum value. Nice strike there to equalize the villager situation.
That's some very nice raise there by Anotand. But at the same time, Camel Lancer makes his way into the base of Anotand. So Anotand is going to have a lot of idle time on him.
Quick reaction, at least for Anotand will get him away. Meanwhile,
Nice raid.
new raid coming in. Too many here to fully gas on the TC for safety, but only under mesh level 1, right? So like you could do some decent damage. Unfortunately, it looks like VortiX, because of the starvation, he's yet to do a blacksmith play at all.
Yeah, he needs a tower or 2 up there because he needs more space to garrison those villagers. And credit to Anotand, he's actually doing a really good job buffering up this intermediate period where he needs to switch compositions and actually get his Castle Age decks going. He has put VortiX in a tough position. And VortiX lost a lot of momentum. Eco is still neck and neck, and Anotand made it into Castle Age. I think Anotand accomplished what he wanted, as VortiX is now mixing in some traders.
What? I'm sorry, what? Was this a misclick? Bit of a weird choice at this stage in the game. Gold is definitely not his problem, food is. But like, yeah, I mean, I want to give him a lot of praise, right? I think I said it just before he actually made the pivot. I was like, if you play Feudal lane longer, it's over, right? And he made the right call. It's like he keeps the semblance of a game alive. It's still a shaky one, but the thing that's worked out nicely for him is VortiX is kind of just scrambling from food to food. Like someone at the end of a Saturday night looking for an open pub, right? Like he's desperate to just find a place to hunker down for a little bit. He's definitely struggling in that regard. Nice snipe in the Dervish as well from the single Vrangin. Crossbow must be able to push this back. Love that he's also contesting relics. That's going to be critical for inflating the Merc count. And we've got Arbiter on the way.
Yeah, this is getting dicey for VortiX over here, I feel. Remember that besides that one Camel Lancer, he never really managed to pressure Anotand's eco. Anotand's got a very nicely set up eco. VortiX is also only on 2 relics, which is somewhat underwhelming given his Castle Age timing.
Ooh,
and it
by
just
the way,
goes to show how well Anotand confined him into his base.
Is this Golden Horn Tower generating the Arbiter, by the way? Like, I think he got a double pump there from the Golden Horn Tower. Jackpot.
Yeah.
Dude, that's perfect. That's the exact thing you want here. Has he actually even researched the Merc contract yet? Check the mercenary house over here. Yeah. No, dude,
No.
this is all intentional. This is so smart. I love this, man. This is cool. These options are so much better than what you could get otherwise, right? You don't really want Lombos here right now. You're up against heavily armored units. You don't want Lancenet. You don't want Keshiks. Like, up against Camels are terrible. Gulams, no, your opponent does more of them. Like, there's nothing that would be better than Sipahi and Arbitrary as options.
Here comes another hero, Siphon. Manjanique's back home to defend. And once again, the Sipais keep swooping in and picking off villagers. Now it's an 11 villager casualty list for VortiX, but oh my lord. Beautiful hit in there. Anotand's been eating some of those Manjanique shots throughout
Spy
this
get in
game.
though. Oh, he gets pinched so close to it. Spearman just about coming in clutch there. Pyrocypher just trying to burn through the TC, but I think this is going to be a reset. If Anotand hangs here, he just stands to lose. Damn,
Yeah, this is a little overzealous. He's trying to take that DC out. I feel like he thinks VortiX's position is much better than what it actually is. I think Anotand felt like he needed to die, but that's not the case. VortiX keeps his DC alive, Anotand's army is reduced to almost nothing, and we're back to the drawing board for him. Now VortiX has the lead of 8 villagers.
Yeah, keep in mind it's not that close though, right? Like you have to remember the olive oil, then you have to remember the level 2 system, which is offsetting the Golden Age buff that the Ibids get at this stage. Like economically, they're actually a lot tighter. Even more so now with it being a free tier relic split. In fact, Anno should be ready to add in a level 3 system about now, which might put him slightly ahead when you compensate with the olive oil also. Oof. Ibids farm transitions. You know they're inevitable, but you never feel good about them, right? Like most people who pick Ibids, I don't know if they're willing to admit themselves to the chat. Best way to do that is make sure you have Surfshark, make a fake account, and then say that you do it. You hope you end the game before you go farms as Ibids, because you get no value out of having to make that play.
Yeah, still raids are going on. VortiX is struggling to access food, and that has been haunting him since the beginning of this game, really, KP.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those issues where once the farms are set up, you don't have to worry about it anymore, but if like Byzantines are doing the same thing, they do it a lot cleaner, right? Their farms are by far the best in the game, and when you're throwing away economy like this...
Yeah. It's one of those unusual moments where VortiX isn't paying attention to things like this, and he definitely lost track of those villagers while he was microing elsewhere, and now he has lost 23 villagers in this game. He still has the eco lead thanks to that second town center, but he's been losing villagers way too quickly in this game, I feel.
I mean, this is more praise to Anotand. Like, this is what I was saying about this series could be very fast, is they're very aggressive players, and you're seeing it here. Love this now from Anno. He says it's finally time.
Yes.
We're going to turn this into a bit of an eco-inflation game. My economy will just simply be better than yours as we go on anyway. And now with the Varangian switch, VortiX took the bait. He started building archers.
At the pace VortiX is losing villagers, if Anotand is on 2 TCs, the villager count is going to be massively in his favor in the next few minutes. Because look at the kills from VortiX. He managed to take out only 5 villagers in this game so far, and he's going to lose additional villagers now that those crossbows are heading to the back of his base. At the same time, Anotand is capturing sacred sites as well. He's got 2 out of 5 relics versus the 3 from VortiX. VortiX has limited mobility to work with, crossbows, archers on the field, and as you said, Anotand, he's pivoting into Varangians, and this TC hasn't been repaired, KP. This could be an easy target for Anotand.
Yeah, even with the fire armor, it's not going to last very long here. That Rave of Varangi could easily idle this area up. And the Manjanique should shoot themselves on the south side, right? I do believe Anotand got a glimpse of that, so they're completely out of position. He has to choose, defend the south or defend the north.
Yeah, and Anotand is going to strike from both sides over here. Look at all these villagers fleeing.
Further
Even
north
if
as
they're
well.
not killed, it's going to be so much idle time on VortiX's eco.
He's getting struck on the deer as well. He's getting struck everywhere. The amount of idle time here, VortiX, over half his economy is not working. And other slivers of it are slapping down dead.
Yeah, and VortiX is microing units elsewhere. Like, he's trying to save these villagers right here, so he isn't noticing the villagers on the deer being picked off. Look at that. He didn't respond to that because he was busy putting out fires elsewhere. And now VortiX is behind in terms of the villager count. Anotand keeps sending wave after wave of Varangians in. And it's not just the villager casualties, KP, it's also the massive idle time on VortiX's eco. His resource income is just looking very, very depressing now.
Anotand, I mean, there's a reason he's got "and" in the name, because when you're in games like this, it's oh, I'm being raided, and I'm being raided, and I'm being raided. Like, this guy is relentless. You know, I said when he joined 3D Clan, it's almost like having a replica B in the lineup because he brings that same level of tempered aggression sometimes when you see him, and you're seeing exactly what I'm talking about here. VortiX is not an easy player to one-up in aggro. In fact, there's a reason we label this guy an 11 out of 10 in aggression. Anotand is proving that he can contest that.
And look at VortiX. At this point, he's saying, listen, I need to stabilize the situation. He's just going to drag that wall across the map. He sent like 30 villagers to build that.
Yeah, but like, what does he have in the corner? He has like nothing down here, 4k gold, and that's it. The rest is exposed.
Yeah, I think it just speaks about the tempo of this game. VortiX probably had a split second to place that wall because of how fast-paced this game is.
Walls aren't up yet. Anotand is going to be reluctant to jump in, though. And I mean, he doesn't need to rush anymore, right? Like, this is the thing about Irobids. If you can't win at this point, the game just kind of goes downhill in this matchup. Byzantines have a much better time in Imperial Age. You don't have great tech ups to look forward to, right? Like, your choices for advancement are terrible. And on top of that, your Golden Age doesn't scale fantastically. Like, the discount is nice, but it's not like this big one-up. It's not like production speed, for example, that the Abbasids get.
You know, Anotand is very heavy on Varangians, and VortiX now has 21 crossbows and potentially narrow choke points to fight, so Anotand's gonna have to make a pivot into something else, because Varangians alone won't make it work here.
I mean, I wonder, like, he could just go Siege. Because you just build Springles, right? You don't need Mangoes at all. The alternative is you just tech up.
Yeah, I think that could be a thing. I would love to see him capture the third Sacred Site and just put VortiX on a timer.
Did he wall at that archery range in the end? Because that Varangian was just in... No. Oh, the panic walls. They're going to come to bite him in the butt. There's already an army marching down there as we speak.
Now, does VortiX know? I don't think he does. I think he's moving out in the middle. So the... okay, Anotand doesn't know either.
He's got bigger problems. These are just palisade walls. Just get some torches out, boys.
There's a hero Sifon push on the north as well. So again, Anotand is attacking at like 4 different positions.
Ooh-wee. Call this guy Luke Skywalker because he's opening VortiX up like it's a Tauntaun right now. This is insane. He's everywhere at once. Remember, Sacred Sites are also locked in. Anotand has full map control at this stage, and he's now starting his bank up. We're looking Imperial Age.
I love the Sacred Site play over here. That forces VortiX to make a move, and so many times we see players just saying, okay, 10 minutes is a long, long time. I'll make sure that when I move out, I have sufficient forces for that. But 10 minutes pass by very quickly if you're playing defensive, and given how much pressure Anotand is putting on VortiX's base, that 10-minute countdown, that could be down to 2 minutes very quickly.
Oh, we get feisty. Foreign Engineering Company now on the way. I don't think Sipahi get any upgrade, right? Pretty sure they don't. No, I'm pretty sure they don't. I don't think any... Ooh, actually, that's intriguing. I haven't tested that, but Arbitrary, they get Gambesons, right? Do they get crossbow stirrups, though? I think it's just Gambesons. Gambesons would sound more sane. We'll find out in a few seconds here. It's an interesting detail because we just don't see it very often. People very rarely go for the neutral trade posts.
Yeah, this is just a very unique game in many ways from Anotand, and some of those elements of Anotand's gameplay definitely threw VortiX off. And despite the fact that the initial push from VortiX, or the initial push from Anotand, I should say, that didn't really work out. He's still in this game because of all the pressure that he's put on VortiX. He's killed 41 villagers in this game.
All right, let's check if they get all the upgrades. Check the Arbitrary. So there's the Gambesons and Hover on the attack speed. Yep, they get both. So there you go, crossbow stirrups and the Gambesons for free. The savings in that itself is justification for the elite contract upgrade.
Yeah, and now it's an age difference between the two players, and VortiX is very far away from aging up here. When he does, Anotand could commit. It looks like VortiX himself is going to counterattack here, trying to contest this gold mine, but response is going to be swift here, and Anotand went back to Sipahis, so suddenly that very crossbow-heavy army of VortiX is much more exposed.
I don't like this for VortiX. It's not looking good right now. Elite upgrades are coming in swift, and the Mangonel outpost on the front line. Dude, these things are still dirty, even with all the nerfs.
I just love that. Now, Sacred Site was neutralized to the south, so countdown is gone. But look at that. Once the men-at-arms or the Varangians provide line of sight on the villagers, the Mangonel Tower can start shooting at them.
But here we go, Nesta Bees are coming in, and this is GG. Like, VortiX has nothing for Nesta Bees right now. In fact, I don't think he has anything what exists right now. Varangian charge in, Sapahi onto the back line, Mango's dead, and this should be the pincher that puts him in the grave.
Oh my, oh my. Anotand has never won a series against VortiX, but we started this series by saying that all of those series happened back before Anotand got as good as he is right now. He's playing the best Age Vampires of his career, and he's taking away game number 1 here from VortiX. Not just any game, by the way, KP, but it was the neutral map, and it was Dry Arabia, as classic as it gets. This tournament has a lot more chaotic maps, and if he was able to take this away from VortiX, there is a decent chance that he could take this series even.
And you know what? I was wrong with my Tauntaun comment earlier. Apparently, it was Han Solo who done it, which seems appropriate because game 1, and it's actually Anotand who shot first. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if this is the beginning of a little bit of a snowball. You know, VortiX, I think he'll admit that sometimes you can get thrown off by these type of builds. Like, this is a very unorthodox approach we saw out of Anotand.
That's
like,
an understatement.
Like, who does this? He's the only player. I've cast him do this multiple times, and he's still, even when he wins, the only player who sees Sapahi and goes, ooh, I like neutral trade bursts. Goes for it every bloody time. It's so incredible to witness. And now we head into a game 2 where he could stick himself on match point, but this one's a bit dicey political. You'd see Roos and you'd think, solid, water map, they win. Not that simple anymore. This Civ has been heavily downgraded in more recent times. We're seeing English outperform them on Archipelago. We're seeing Chinese, Zhuji, and to a certain extent, Order of the Dragon and HRE, because the issue of Rus is they're good for that initial conversion, but then afterwards, their economy, their military, they tend to fall behind these other Civs.
I think one of the bigger things to look at here, KP, is that this is not just an Order of the Dragon versus Rus matchup. This is also a very micro-heavy matchup, a full water map that we have. And I understand why VortiX chose this as the second map to be played. He loves micro. He's one of the best micro players out there. And in a straight-up setup where it's difficult to do anything in a chaotic way, like Archipelago, this is exactly a setup that he's going to thrive in, I feel.
Wait, you say it like I used to. Archipelago. It's not just me that I learned a long time ago. It's Archipelago. Chat wouldn't let me get away with that. But no, it's an interesting one actually, because the other thought here is Anotand did have the HRE. They would have had a better burst in the early game, but then would have fallen off harder in the late game, right? Because the OOTD have the gathering rate condensed. They're not anchored to an Archon. Let's find out though. It's definitely looking like it's going to be an Archon, and it's going to be an aching heart for one of these two. Anotand striking early in that game 1. VortiX now looking to come back Order the Dragon. And Anotand here to show us that the Rus may actually be beatable in competitive play, because so far, this has been a very underwhelming map for them.
Yeah, I feel like VortiX needs that win here with the OOTD, because falling down 2-0 against Anotand here in the first round of the group stage would be very, very bad for him. Don't forget, this is a GSL group stage, so what matters is the set victory at the very end. Scoreline doesn't really count that much, so assuming, let's say, Anotand wins the series 3-2, 3-1, that doesn't really matter for VortiX. Point is, for him, it needs to be a comeback in this game, because otherwise, if Anotand goes 2-0, some of the maps that are left behind could play into the chaotic nature of Anotand's playstyle. I feel like this is probably the most VortiX-sided map among the ones that we have remaining.
Also, you know, this game would have to make VortiX mold. If you remember correctly, in the last EDC tournament, he done his tier list. This was S tier. And then he never picked it. So he's here to prove to us why Order of the Dragon can be good. Not a bad choice in this map. Like, remember with the Ark and Chapel placement, with HRE, they always won on water because they win in 15 minutes, right? After 15 minutes, their first tree line's gone, and they are just a normal Civ. Cool thing about Order of the Dragon is, although they're less efficient at the speed at which they munch for that first tree line, they continue to munch for additional tree lines just as quickly.
That's going to be an interesting aspect to look at, especially considering that a lot of the trees that you have on your island are close to the shoreline. So, especially if the game ends up going to a later stage, your lumberjacks could easily become prey of just random galleys or hawks passing by.
That's a cool detail about Dragon as well, right? It's like their villages are more tanky, so they're less likely to just take the knee straight away. Do love this, by the way. This became very popular. Shoreline fishing after you drop the dock. It's been the difference between players just winning or losing the game straight away. I'm glad everyone's on board with this and understands that this is the move you make. Like, you need a very optimal feudal timing, especially as the Roost here, because you need to convert that first boat and harass the enemy eco.
Exactly. Shore fishing is one of the best sources of food that you can get with villagers. It's a very fast gather rate, and in early game like this, it's a massive boost to your economy. Now, one thing I'm uncertain about KP is because, well, obviously this is not a map that we commonly see in the competitive scene. Do we still have wolves and whatnot on the neutral islands?
I think there were none, from what I recall.
Yeah,
There might have
so
been one or two on the starting island.
yeah, so one of the cool things that you could do, this is like day number 1 of AOE IV, on the map Warring Islands, which was probably a worse version of what we have right now here at Archipelago. One thing you could do with the ruse is transport your scout with
Yeah.
a transport ship to the neutral islands, get the wolf skilled there for a bounty, and then convert your ship back into a fishing boat. That's actually something that was a very decent strategy playing with the ruse on Warring Islands.
Yeah, it's like, it's not in existence in this map. In fact, there's a very easy way to tell. If you look at Anotand's
Excuse me,
gold,
that's a transport ship.
I mean, there's no wolf there, right? Like, if we check the central island, we'll see there's no wolf.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah. But which makes this even weirder. Like, because if you look at Anatand's gold, you can tell that he only got his deer because he's only got 70 gold
Yeah.
extra, right? It's like,
So here's the thing.
It's very weird.
Here's the thing. Normally, a transport ship could just be a sign that he sends that ship forward, and that's the one that he's going to convert.
Yeah.
But he does have a unit inside, so it definitely has a purpose for this.
Wait, can we check? I think transport ships are quicker than fishing boats, right?
I think so,
Yeah,
yeah.
so 1.5. And then if we look at the Lodya fishing boats. Okay, ignore that then. I mean, in fairness, it's not
it's
the
a
worst of
cost thing,
ideas.
to my knowledge.
Yeah,
Can you take a look at the cost, though, of these ships?
it's-
Because I
it's
think
not
fishing
the-
boats are more expensive.
Yes, but it's also the production time. That's the bigger deal, right? 20 seconds versus 38, as well as the cost. So you are correct on the cost,
Yeah.
but the bigger deal is by doing this, you idle yourself up less. I've never seen what happens when you try to convert with a unit inside. I don't even know if the game lets you. I like to imagine it just jettisons them out the side, like an unwanted dog. But he's looking for the starting island, right? Like, this is actually very smart. I haven't seen a player do this yet, but it makes a lot of sense because then you know where to convert instead of blind guessing.
It's not just that. I think having that scout on the opposing player's island could give you a lot of vital pieces of information, like what's the island structure, where do they have their backup wood lines. Those kinds of pieces of information could be very valuable. I think he's going to see that scout, so now he knows what's up, and he's converting his transport ship immediately. Feudal Age hits for VortiX as well, though, so by the time that first Lodya galley arrives, VortiX should have a Hawk out as well.
Or getting involved. Oh, that's smart, actually, because he could get the edge to kill the enemy scout now. Because remember, this isn't HRE. They don't have a healer boy. Oh, that's brilliant. So yeah, it's going to be Kremlin. You might be wondering, why do you Kremlin instead of Golden Gate? It's just so you have a static defensive fall back on, plus the fact that you gather wood. It is not about militia at all. Militia is completely redundant here because you can't garrison militia.
Exactly. It's just that free wooden fortress that you're getting, plus, of course, defense to your initial docks, which is very valuable. Oh, that boar! If the boar can hit the gold miners, that's beautiful for Anotand, though.
Any bit of idle time counts. Looks like Archer ship is going to be chasing this away as Anotand forced to retreat as he didn't get the first shot out. Spring ship already on the way. Yeah, kind of unfortunate. Like, Anotand, he went for the skew play, but he's put himself at a disadvantage in a different way. I think also he's just outplaying himself on this ball because VortiX is just sticking to him, right? Like, it's making it so simple. And Scout goes down, so no real value gain considering he didn't distract VortiX enough to get an advantage elsewhere.
Yeah, I feel like this was a matter of, okay, I landed on your island, and I don't know what to do with my scout, so might as well try this.
Yeah, and it's like, because he done that, the archer ship conversion didn't come in time on the boats, right? So he didn't idle up his opponent at all. Like, I actually think VortiX is in a very good position here.
Yeah, I like his position too. He's got a Hawk out there. He's going to flank around from the northern side, and so far, Anotand's been very, very defensive with his ship placement. First demo's gonna be on the way, though. There is a galley out for VortiX. He should be able to snipe it easily.
Yeah, I think the word I described for playing demos as Roos is cringe. I think that's the most appropriate word. Like, it's so hard to dodge with these demo ships. Remember, the hitbox is bigger on the Roos ones, and also that tends to impact the detonation range. Like, it's such a hard civ to play in long water. Spring ship coming in, though, almost gets the snipe. Great body block there by VortiX. Also cancelled out the mana sails.
And this is bigger. Because the galley is pushed away, the Lodya demo could actually dive in, and it does get the hit.
Ooh, funnel
and
shot.
the galley does get destroyed as well.
No! He doesn't get it. Good pull there. VortiX with the fishing boats just in time to keep the Hulk alive.
Yeah, I mean, VortiX needed that so badly, if you think about it. He turned around the galley to destroy the demo. He wasn't able to, so he lost the galley. He needed this Hawk alive. This is a lot of damage done here to VortiX.
It's a lot of sprims coming out now, though, right? And after the reset, Anotand has got the double demo pump. There's still an archer ship alive. Like, this is, I think this, people aren't going to like it because it sounds like a bufferoos, but it is dumb that they have such big hitboxes on all their boats, especially their demo ships. Makes them easy to hit, makes it much harder to micro your units through each other.
Now, VortiX, it was crucial for him to save that one Hawk. It would have been very bad losing a galley and a Hawk for basically no return value. Now at least things do get reset, so fleet's getting back to their original shape. But a decent start over here for the Feudal Age for Anotand. Looks like VortiX might be flirting with the idea of Castle Age here, though.
A little bit early for, I think you just keep playing Feudal for now. You know, rushing Castle is the way you lose this game. You know, Roost don't really have a great hit up that gets them ahead by doing that. It's not like, for example, Juji on this map. Like, Juji are phenomenal because they build Shaolin Monastery and they pick up a relic straight away, and you know, they get the discounts, right? So it's a very efficient trade. Demos instead are going to be queued up, so it looks like VortiX is going to be reinvesting some. Anotand, having to stay honest with the Imperial count here. My worry here is like the archer ship count, right? Like, I think Anotand does need to add in an extra one here.
Yeah. Just one or arrow ship isn't going to do. Because VortiX will be looking to snipe that archer ship before the demos come in. Now, VortiX is piling up a lot of food and gold, so I think he's still thinking about Castle Age, but he's playing this carefully, seeing how water transpires before doing that. Now, Anotand is flanking around with 2 demos here, and I think VortiX may not have seen them. This could be big.
This is the pinch. Archer ship coming in. VortiX is going to dodge. Got to be careful here. I don't think you just go for the boats. You come for the wraparound here, because this could be decisive. And
he did.
Him in. In the end, that works out. So you saw what happened to the galleys, right? The galleys got pulled back, so VortiX did react appropriately. Anotand takes what he can get. So trades out double demo for 4 fishing boats. That's about even. It still costs you a bit more to make that commitment, but you have just taken out workers.
Yeah, that was a decent demo here from Anotand. Indeed, as you kind of highlighted, he wanted to flank the enemy navy, but then VortiX turns around the galleys to pick off those demos, so he just ends up ramming the fishing boats. I think Anotand himself lost a Lodya fishing boat, so it wasn't as big of a difference between the two. But still, it's VortiX who's piling up the resources very quickly for Castle Age, Anotand lagging behind quite a bit.
Makes sense now, right? Like, it's stalemated, so you just go for the tech advantage. It's big as well. Spiritual Cruise is insane. It's like you get Admiralty on any civ. And also the Hulks, like, as in the increase in health, just like, you know, hulking your boys up with the shipwright tech. Not to mention, Starting Island, there's already a relic right there, right? So that's going to be a nice gold trickle. This is a problem right now. Anotand is nowhere near ready for Castle himself.
What I love about Anotand, though, is that he's splitting up his Lodya fishing boats now. He's realizing that VortiX is keeping his fleet together, so he's just going to split up his fishing eco, so it's hard to raid.
VortiX having to retreat away. This is making it obvious right now. There's only one reason you back up in this position. So Anotand needs to go, like, pedal to the metal here. Demo ship does get denied, not able to get close enough. He can still idle out the fleet, though.
Yeah, he also picked off all 3 galleys that VortiX had, so there is no counter to the demos right now. Anotand has got 3 demos in queue, and VortiX has to migrate his fishing boats, which is a big hit to his eco right now.
Especially at the beginning of a tech up like this. Demo ships are going to come out. Archer ships should be able to contest that quite easily, though. It's going to bait him in range. VortiX, I don't know if that's planetary pathing or intentional, but it keeps him just out of range. Dive comes in. Demos aren't detonating prematurely, no. Big wallop coming through. And VortiX, that might be enough to get him the breathing space he needs here.
Yeah, and he's got a new galley out as well, just in time to pick off that Lodya demo that's coming in.
Say that, it's double demo. VortiX, he has nowhere to run here. He's going to have to take a hit. Not enough damage to take down that second demo. Good split. And
new demos, though. You have new demos coming in.
Wait, is he converting them? Dude, I feel like these are getting here insanely fast. He's going to detonate a few. Spiral count now down to 2. VortiX is in trouble. Oh my god.
Don't forget, all the fishing boats are still to the south. Like, they are going to be taken out here very quickly, and just look at the production for VortiX. He's getting some new demos in here, but you do have Lodya Gallis to deal with this. This demo needs to connect here. And Anotand, I think he was looking to trade it off initially.
Another fleet boy down, loses one of the 2 hulks he has in the field, and VortiX slowly being starved out here. Anotand just like a dog with a bone that simply won't let go.
And by the time the upgrades come in for VortiX for his fleet, he's got no fleet remaining. And I feel like the difference between the two is the fact that Anotand is using all his resources to just pump out ships, whereas VortiX spent a lot of his resources on actually getting up to Castle Age. Now his fishing eco is idled out, his fleet is being taken out as well, and his lumberjacks are now prime targets of these Lodya boats.
Getting idled out. I mean, at least it's not as bad as when it happens to HRE, right? You can still gather without that buff. Demo's coming in to deny the hulks again. He still doesn't have shipwright tech, right? So not really that good at trading in these situations. There's a quadruple demo pump coming through. Spiral count might be high enough to kind of dodge this out. Archer ship to finish them off. Beautiful micro by Anotand to keep VortiX on the verge of defeat here.
That's crazy. Don't forget, if those demos don't connect, it's a massive resource sink.
No,
But
no,
as
no,
I'm
no.
saying that, that demo comes in, still doesn't do enough damage to repel this attack, though.
New demo coming in. VortiX, this is such an uncomfortable game. And the fleet are coming in again to try and give repairs, but the demo says, yummy, me like you very much. Oh, no!
Oh, my. Oh, now the galleys are picking off all the fishing boats.
Farewell, sweet prince. I think we're about to have Anotand rushing towards match point here. VortiX, barely a scratch of a fleet left standing, on the verge of finding himself back up against the wall with a risk of being in a loser series next weekend.
He's still trying to hold on to this, and Anotand is getting dangerously close to those docks. But VortiX is just spamming demos at this point, looking for one great connection.
He's never getting it, though. If you want a good connection, he should have signed up to Surfshark. Demo comes in, sinks it again. No boats in play. No playtime for VortiX. Anotand is not waiting around.
Oh my lord, we've talked about this numerous times at the beginning of this set. We've never seen these two play against each other in their prime. And boy, oh boy, is Anotand looking strong. Just for context, these guys have played 3 series against each other in the history of AOE IV. Anotand won a combined game, 1 game in those series. Now he's up 2-0 against VortiX.
I'm impressed, man. I was not expecting the Roos to be able to slap that one out, but VortiX, dude, the game sense on Anotand, he knew exactly what game VortiX was playing at. And you know what it was? It was that mid-map engagement where VortiX backs up a bit, Anotand probes it, and then VortiX backed up again. That confirmed his suspicions that a tech up was coming out. That type of killer instinct is exactly why Anotand has been rising through the ranks so quickly as a prominent player. That's what matters right now, Litter. You've seen it. The pace of AOE IV has never been higher. Feudal all-ins, early castle finishes. The days of long Imperial are mostly past us, bar English picks coming out. But we might not even get to see English here. Next up, we've got Four Lakes. Anotand with the Abbasids, but I've got to give it to VortiX. He may just have the single best pick for this map. Japan, looking a bit one-dimensional and underwhelming on land maps, but on Four Lakes in particular, they look nigh on unstoppable.
Yeah, this is a map that could also open up a lot of opportunities for chaos, though. So don't count Anotand out, but I agree with you. I like the Japanese more here from VortiX. He needs to mount a reverse sweep to come back into the series and take the win here. Of course, if he ends up losing this series, he's going to play an elimination match next week, which would be rather an unusual position to be in for VortiX, especially when you consider that I think most people would have expected him to win this group.
Yeah, and I'm not even thinking, I don't even feel like as much that he's slipping as much as the competition is catching up, right? I mentioned Anotand has been shining bright. Like, we mentioned at the start of the day, getting into this, right? There's maybe 3 players maximum that I look at this, and I wouldn't be surprised if they just don't make playoffs, right? The rest are in contention here. And I'm not going to, like, name and shame. Sorry to the 3 that didn't make my queue, but a lot of players, and definitely Anotand amongst them, have been stepping up in the first few months of 2024. And that, by the way, just makes the future even more scary, right? Like, we've got another tournament just around the corner to see which one player is going to get to go to a LAN. That's mind-boggling, right? With the play already like this, I mean, they're all sweating about each other. I wouldn't be surprised if Marine Law's on the sideline sweating a little bit as well. He'd never admit it, though. But yeah, Four Lakes, I mean, this is interesting. Like, Anotand is probably going to have to play, what, proxy docks into aggro play, I don't see a way in which you play an eco game against Japan because they will just fast castle you.
Yeah, I think it starts by you having something to deal with a Shinobi. Because if you just drop your dog back at home and you're waiting for something to happen, Shinobi will torch it down. At the same time, Abbasids are known for the cheap docks, and this is a map where you can play with a lot of proxy docks, as well as just expand to those neutral pawns early. So, one thing that could be intriguing to look at is indeed early docks. And knowing that Anotand likes chaos and aggression, it would not be shocking to see him send a villager to the enemy pawn very early. And I do mean very early, even for pro player standards.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because I can see both these players trying to fast feudal. Typically, the way you play Japan is you don't even necessarily go pond. You just go Koka Township first and deny them. But the problem is the archeries plus the spears, you kind of screw over your initial shinobi, so you get kind of deeper in the pool of investment. So definitely curious to see how this one's going to play out. I imagine Anotand has something creative in mind. I mean, he has so far this entire series already now on match point against most people's favorite for this group, VortiX. Up against the ropes, does not want to be in a losing situation, an elimination situation next weekend. Nothing but perfection now if he wants to avoid that fate. Straight away, Anotand, what, central dock here? Yeah, so that's cool, right? That limits the opportunity for people to sneak in. One cool thing I've been seeing out of Japanese players at the moment, I think it was actually Recon was doing this a lot on the ladder. He was nerding out about it. Is the idea that you can go along wall, but also you can farmhouse on the shore because you can fish, right? But that also blocks enemy docks. So that's another area where Japan can be a little bit more efficient about their early game than other civs.
Yeah, dock is going to be placed by Anotand to the north. Both of these players are pretty far away from their respective docks. This is one of those spawns where the players pretty much spawn between two pawns. Sometimes you do have a much closer pawn to your base. That's not the case for this generation. So in general, protecting these docks is going to be a challenge.
Yeah, see, like, I mean, it's one of those annoying things where Abbasis don't really have a wall-up value. That's why I usually like them to be a bit more aggressive, is their value tends to be in dock drops, right? Like 75 wood makes it very cheap. You don't really want to be docking along your tree lines to try and protect your ponds, though. You can go for the melee wing play, but my worry is like VortiX should be going up with like 8 villages. That Shinobi timing is going to be very aggressive. In theory, you should be able to beat the Shinobi opening, but something I've noticed that's kind of been quite popular in the past in these situations is Japan can just drop a stables, actually, build 2 horsemen, and then the Shinobi plus 2 horsemen beat the military wing. And you have to reset after that game too, huh? This one could go a little bit deeper.
I think we need to get back into this slower-paced AOE. It's often common after all these high-intensity games that we get back to Dark Age and it's like, okay, Resident Sleeper, right?
Yeah, I think that's like the thing, especially with Four Lakes, is it's very rare these days for people to try Dark Age aggro play. Players have gotten so good at sensing out when someone's trying to sneak a dock that most players just kind of don't bother with it anymore, especially in the Japanese matchup. Like, Japan just wants the fast feudal, and no one wants to try and dock drop Japanese because that means you're building a dock closer to the spawning Shinobi, which means you're probably never getting a bow out.
Yeah, the only way I could see that is if you do that specifically to draw the attention of the Shinobi and kind of just take the opponent's attention away from your own pawn, right? But again, I agree with you. I think a player like VortiX would see that this is just a distraction. He would send one Shinobi to shut it down, and then the rest of them will be sent to the enemy pawn anyways.
Yeah, I do think like the Shinobi is a little bit overrated. I've been saying this recently, and I think, it's funny that it got nerfed so hard. I kind of understood it on hybrid maps, but now that you see it in a wider lens, it doesn't look as impactful. Abbasis especially are good at dealing with it because they can just build 2 docks for the price of 1, right? So that you can't really burn them out. And it looks like the Abbasa player is going to be going on the offensive here. Anotand moving in on the pawns of the Japanese. How many ships has VortiX gone up to as well? Because I feel like at this stage, usually you're trying to pull the trigger. Yeah, 5. Going up to 6 feels a little bit greedy, right? Like, it's interesting because you should already be more efficient on a tech up than your opponent, considering. There we go. It was just the drop-off was an issue. So Koka now on the way. 6 is a little bit casual. I want to say 8 to guarantee the blockouts on the dock. Because it's not just about the initial Shinobi, it's about the second Shinobi as well.
Yeah, that's true, but you're facing Abbasids, so you know exactly their timing with this Feudal HH up. It's going to be military wing as you would expect, so you are going to have those two spearmen and more importantly, the two archers to try and deal with the initial shinobi. But I guess it's just a temporary buffer for the first one shinobi, maybe first two, but beyond that, you just get overwhelmed.
Yeah, but I think like this is why I like the idea of the stables play, right? If VortiX just drops the stables and then brings two horsemen, oh, dude, Anotand,
Oh,
he's one of these
I
dirty
love it.
players. He does this so often. I love it.
This is actually very clever. And I think this is one of the most underrated moves he made in this series. So the shortest path between the enemy pawn and himself or his base is to the south. But he knows fully well that VortiX will be looking for a sneaky villager on that side. In fact, VortiX has a fishing boat offset to the south, such that he sees enemy docks being placed. So Anotand takes the longer road around, but it allows him to get a dock up that VortiX has no idea about.
Yeah, I just hope that one villager gets like 10% of his prize pool earnings, right? So he's doing the hard work in this game. He checks the north dock, gets nothing there. Looks like we have actually got a play coming in, but the ball gets pulled. Now, Anotand could have tried for the body locks. Instead, he's just going to stand here. I wonder, does he spread out the sheep?
That villager is already banked up, though. Like, the thing is that when the boar gets one or two hits on that villager, the scout might be enough to finish it off.
But it's more the villagers nearby, right? It's the one shiv stab, and you just can't win this fight anymore. Second dock coming in. Anotand's timing.
Discount.
This is going to be dirty, man. Like, double archership here could just wipe the fishing.
And this is so clever. He's playing as patiently, and he's leveraging the Abbasid bonus of the dock discount. And by the time VortiX realizes, it's going to be too late. Also, side note here. Anotand knows fully well that VortiX doesn't know about that dock because he sees the scout. He knows fully well that VortiX has no idea about this expansion.
Needs to be careful the fishing on the shoreline. I think that actually may have just given him away. Yep, check the vision. I'm pretty sure it was just the villager that revealed him there. So a little bit unnecessarily greedy. Shinobi are now going to move in, but double dock is hard to deny here.
Yep, that's exactly why the two docks and the Abbasid discount comes into play.
Meanwhile, Shinobi in the center do get pinched. Dude, this could be a very quick game. Anotand has already cleared up the first ninja, hasn't lost a single unit.
Yeah, and now he's harassing the enemy fishing eco while his own is staying alive. He's going to save this scout for the time being as well. And the thing is that in a battle like this, when the opponent's fishing eco is idled out, even if it's just a partial thing, that's already very bad for them if the opposing player's eco, the fishing eco, is totally untouched.
What was that? VortiX losing track of what the Shinobi was doing there. Yes, he gets the villager kill, but loses it immediately. Loses the archership. He's a huge disadvantage on one pond here.
Oh my, archers are coming in. He had to make a tower on his gold mine just to protect those villagers. Has to flee with his own fishing boats. He has two docks, but he can't garrison everybody.
No, he's going to get idled out. I mean, that pretty much feels like you're flatlining, right? He's trying to go fast castle in this matchup, and he's not going to have the economy to enable that.
Yeah, and look at Anotand. He's banking up food like a madman. He might be thinking about Castle Age himself.
Demo's also going to start holding this hostage. Archership's trying to come out for VortiX, but there's already a Bagler here. Like, he's stuck, right? Because he doesn't want to invest these resources in defending water. That's a losing game. But if he goes castle now, his eco is so weak, I don't think he does anything. And
yeah, he doubles down. Look at this. He's down to 600 food, and with the food income he has right now, it would take 2 more minutes just to get the resources for Castle Age. Bit of a mismicro here by Anotand with the demos. He's going to lose both of them, potentially.
No, nice dodges there just to save it in the end. And you're not going to pull the fishing boats out to repair here, right? Like, that would feel a little bit too dicey. So just expensive losses.
Ooh, nice demo, though.
Nice, gets the trade. Archership cleans up afterwards. So back to fishing operations for VortiX. Good recovery.
Yeah, this was some very nice micro there. I guess the problem is that, you know, you were talking about the fact that we could see Castle Age for him. He's back to fishing, so he could get to Castle Age soon. But Anotand already has the resources for this. Part of the reason why Anotand lost this naval battle was because he stopped investing into combat ships here.
Well, that's because he's investing into war on land. Moves in onto the outpost. Ah, VortiX. Are we going to try this, are we? Are we going to try the reverse clown carring?
It's still a lot of idle time, though. And remember, VortiX's food eco was shut down. He still is only at 200 food per minute. His gold villagers are being idled. Those are the 2 resources he needs for Castle Age. By the time he gets to Castle, it will be too late, I feel.
You're seeing that pump as well. Anotand didn't even complete the attack animation. He just wants to bait VortiX to react. because Tech Up's on the way. Culture Wing now coming in. I can't believe this, dude. We've got the Abbasses teching up quicker than the Japanese.
I gotta say, Anotand is playing out of his mind because VortiX is no pushover. And VortiX is doing some really good things in some of these games. Like, this is not VortiX playing bad, it's just Anotand playing out of his mind right now.
Oh, yes. Stable's now coming in, but he needs to pull more into the gold now. Stable's being prepped in response, so this should actually just be a Camel Rider game. It's kind of cool. We don't see them often, but they are incredibly effective, even against Mounted Samurai.
Yeah, and especially if you can put some additional pressure on the opponent food eco or gold eco, it's going to be troublesome for VortiX to just spam those Mounted Samurai out. Looks like he's going to clean up the docks on his spawn, but you have a second dock already here for Anotand. He's actually patrolling the shoreline just to make sure it doesn't get dock dropped. Yeah. But he's going to continue expanding his food eco. He's going to be up to Castle Age himself, and he already has a stable to start mass-producing those camel riders.
He's going to want to ramp it up. I like that he's adding in additional production, so we're probably looking at, what, crossbows plus camel riders? You have to know that Mount Samurai coming. It's just an obvious play here. I mean, he could have went Spearman. A little bit surprised he didn't opt to that. It would be more cost-efficient than crossbows.
I would love to see some walls from Anotand, though, because I feel like VortiX's position is still okay here. He has done a really good job recovering. He's already heading out for relics. He's going to have a great production of Mounted Samurai. Look at that. He already has a Mounted Samurai out there. And if Anotand struggles to keep track of those, he's going to be in a world of pain against those units.
Camel Rider as well. So he just wants to keep that Camel on knees locked in. Doesn't want to rely on one unit. Shinobi in the meantime trying to sneak around, but Archership has spotted him out, so won't be able to get in the backside there. Nicely played. And, you know, VortiX now knows that his opponent's on 2 pawns. This has to be very worrisome because he's reaching
nice
critical
sabotage,
mass.
Though. That's a clever idea. You sabotage the stable so camel riders won't come out.
There's a crossbow here, though. That did at least get out. Villagers are going to be in peril, though, as the Samurai does ride in. Formation shuffle does just about get him away. More production now coming up behind this. This is a lot of idle time for Anotand, and that delay definitely has hurt him.
Exactly. That is a clutch move by VortiX. You have crossbows here, but first of all, the first attack gets cancelled with the Mounted Samurai. And more importantly, 1 or 2 crossbows don't stop a knight or 2. That's just not enough. You need those camel riders, and that's why those 2 Shinobi came in clutch.
Well played there, though. Anotand does sniff out the dock drop, so VortiX not able to strip the economy and water. That's worrisome because the camel riders are going to be coming out sooner or later.
Yeah, and you could see that VortiX himself had some resource income troubles. He still only had 4 Mounted Samurai, despite having a Yorishiro buffing his production.
I mean, it's the effects of critical massing, right? Like, you're actually seeing already that he started to move from deep water fish to deep water fish. He's been exhausting them. So he actually has a long drop-off point now, because if we check the Eastern Pond, I don't think he's dropped. Yeah, no additional dock here.
He's actually moving to the Northern Pond, but that's a place where Anotand is expanding to as well. So there's going to be a lot of naval engagements happening at the same time as well. And those Mounted Samurai, they're slowly being picked off. When you look at the destroyed value, there's a definitive advantage on the side of Anotand here.
Oh, no.
Oh, Anotand lost his villager.
The peril ram.
Did he? No, no.
No, it's still there. It's
hiding.
still there. Yeah, he's hiding. He's a frog today. He's dipping his toes in. And those 3 units from the military wing play should be enough to scare him off here. Because VortiX, if he tries to burn down that ram, he's going to lose 3 eco.
And you have to send a Mounted Samurai, but you have 2 Spearmen over here, and you don't want to take damage with that unit. At least VortiX is collecting relics. But this is, I guess, the stage where the game gets very, very chaotic, and that's exactly what Anotand thrives in.
Wow, so VortiX pulls everything back to defend this. We'll be able to mop up the military wing units. Wall-in now coming through, but quite delayed. VortiX already has 2 relics and a 3rd one on the way home.
And that could be the lifeline for VortiX. His fishing eco has been harassed for a long time, and he doesn't really have a second layer to his food eco. He's actually very, very bad when it comes to the food economy, just 400 per minute compared to 700. So yeah, I mean, that passive resource income might just be the thing that he needs here.
And now marching across and out of his base, has crossbows together. Interestingly enough, he did not scale mass camel riders. He actually stopped at the 1 and the camel archer as well. So he just wanted to debuff. Seems to be trusting in the knights to have more value past that.
Yeah, but in this case, I would love to see some walls from him. Because camel riders, if you had 10 of them, you could track all those Mounted Samurai, but that's not the case. And look at that. He's playing for food denial now. I think he learned from game number 1, something we highlighted in that game. He tried food denial, or well, he could have tried food denial there, but instead he prioritized gold denial In this game, he definitely seems to be targeting the food eco of VortiX.
And this is cool. VortiX now transitioning into Yuumi, but maybe an unorthodox time here. Against the Abbasids as well. Like, I'm a fan of Yuumi in Castle, but this might be one of the hardest matchups due to composite bows.
Oh, certainly. And look at what Anotand is doing. He's getting his own archers out, and he does have knights as well. So I feel like Yuumi here, especially without the Bannerman buff, that could be disastrous against the composition that Anotand is preparing.
He did already get the Daimyo level 1, so Yuumi Bannerman is an option here. It's just against composite bows, like the DPS difference is a mile wide. Bit of a raid here, just trying to idle them up. Anotand doesn't want to throw away too many units because he's prepping the blow to the jugular here. Veterancy for the archers, composite bows queued up. Also the undermesh, a very valuable tool up against these lower damage Yuumi.
Yeah, I think one big difference between the two players is that Anotand sees the Yuumi coming out. I don't think VortiX has seen the archers coming out on the other side. So that could be a nasty surprise for him facing off against composite bows and a bunch of crossbows as well. So his mounted samurai could evaporate very quickly, though. One thing that I like about VortiX's position, though, is the production, the rate of production that he has. He's escalating his army a lot quicker than Anotand does.
Yeah, and also what worries me is Anotand now going to spears. Like, you've seen Yuumi. You know it's Yuumi. You should never be building spears here.
Yeah, ironically, camel riders would have been so good here. Both against the Yuumi and the mounted samurai.
Yeah, it's a little bit sticky with Yuumi. Like, I think the thing that makes Yuumi kind of feel busted is the way they can pull away, so your melee units can never really stick on top of them. But, you know, the problem is Anotand, caught in the middle of the archer transition, not really there yet. VortiX, perfect time to try and push out. Camels are starting to be sniped down. He does go for the camel archer first. So ground given over here, but as we reach Anotand's base, VortiX will probably have to let up a little.
Yeah, still, VortiX reclaimed the pawn to the north, so I feel like the momentum for Anotand is shrinking over here. VortiX has a steady food eco now. In fact, it's better than what Anotand has by 600 food per minute. Ooh. And at the same time, he's posturing in front of Anotand's base with an army that's escalating a lot quicker than Anotand's does.
Gulums. Now it's time to be added in. That is the solution to Yuumi here, right? A little bit tough to touch your opponent, but you only get tickled by the Yuumi. This archers are meant to carry this behind. Level 2 ranged armor's coming in. Now, VortiX, he did get an edge there. He got into the level 2 range damage much quicker. This should even things out, and now with the composite bows effect, this is where VortiX should start to struggle in the fights.
Yeah, he does have a massive eco lead now, though. Villager count is dead even, but he's sitting on 4 relics, which is obviously a game changer. And he can put those extra resources to good use with the Yorishiros.
Militarily, he's a bit deceptive, remember. Like, of these two players, VortiX has a lot more navy going on. 3 extra boats, in fact. So when you look at that military pop, Anotand is still actually the one with the advantage currently.
Anotand has a lot of archers as well, and I don't think he's shown most of them. Like, look at this army. Actually, he did. Okay, so he's got a lot of these archers up front. Yeah, for a moment, I thought he only had the crossbows and the lancers up front, but no, he's got the archers there as well. And Mangonels, that could be the game changer for him, because those Yuumi could get destroyed in a second by those Mangonels.
Yeah, we need to check VortiX's base at the Euroshira plays. That little samurai raid isn't going to work out. Get rid of him. I want to see where he's dropping these, because it's very important. If he doesn't have one for a Siege Workshop transition, he's in trouble. He did permanently drop one in the TC. We've got one in the stables, one in the farmhouse. I believe there should be one in archery range. So he might already have locked himself out of a Siege Workshop transition.
I love this move from VortiX, by the way, sending an inexpensive Yuumi to the other side just to see what his opponent is up to. But those Mangonels, now they are pushing back the Yuumi, and oh, look at that. Blunt fire to the back of the wood line. Just making sure that if you have any villagers there, he's just going to take those out.
Makes sense. His opponent is massing Yuumi, right? Like, yes, they're cheaper than standard archers, but there's still a lot of wood. Crossbows still being scaled into. So I kind of like this from Anno, right? Like, you'd think he'd play into archers, but actually, in fairness, crossbows solves the real problem, and Mangoes keeps this temporary Yuumi issue at bay.
Yeah, and the thing is that you can mass produce your Mangonels with your infantry. VortiX takes a lot more effort to get some Springolds out, and he currently has no anti-siege working for him.
No, and he's going Ona Bagisha as his form of anti-siege. Would work if his opponent was not building Gulums. That's my worry here. Is VortiX, without Yorushira drop, these Ona Bagisha numbers are going to scale slowly. Moving in, house is being burnt, so VortiX is going to have some pop block issues.
Yeah, could. Bit of a clash.
That one villager. We really hate that one guy. Knights, in the meantime, are going to raid in onto the gold. Quick reaction out. Samurai will save the day. Army a little bit slow to follow us up. Golems do stab onto that tree line, though. VortiX starting to hemorrhage.
Yeah, the damage output here for VortiX could be very, very bad. Don't forget, those Yuumi, they need that Bannerman to help out. And the Mounted Samurai are getting debuffed by the Camels. I think that's such a big part of the equation over here for Anotand. Being able to eliminate a significant portion of the cavalry damage output here from his opponent.
Oh no, big hit. Samurai come in, nice save just in the nick of time. Keeps one of the Mangoes up. Means the Yuumi need to retreat, and clumping like that is not going to help the equation. We'll stab around the side. Mango perfectly insulated here. Anotand is going to be forced to stand his ground. If he moves an inch, the Mango is going to fall. The Mad Samurai are making their way in. They'll get rid of the siege, but the price is most definitely high for VortiX.
Yeah, at least that's the silver lining here for Anotand, but this almost ended up being a completely disastrous fight. Nearly lost both of his Mangonels. Looks like that one Mangonel surviving helps to carve out what seems to be a Pyrrhic victory here. He's able to pressure that gold mine now.
There's nothing left. It's done. GG gets called. Anotand, quite possibly the biggest upset. Definitely a strong player, but no one could have anticipated such a clean 3-0.
I think a lot of people went into today's series saying that, listen, this is going to be a 3-0 set. But I think not a single person would have said that this is going to be 3-0 for Anotand. And VortiX didn't play badly. It was Anotand who played out of his mind. I would dare to say that we've seen one of the strongest sets that he has ever delivered. He was creative, he was aggressive, and he was all over VortiX. Just like, it's like an octopus kind of suffocating his opponent from all directions. And that is something that's so difficult to do against an elite player like VortiX.
I mean, this is the thing, right? Like, people are always talking about, oh, where's B? B's not playing right now. We want to B. Dude, you don't need B. You got Anotand. He's the 2024 coming of B at this stage. Anotand is so creative with these builds. I mentioned it a little bit earlier. Like, if you got Irobids, you would have seen a logistics wing feudal play. He's the only player I know doing these type of things right now. He's absolutely phenomenal in top form at the moment, and he just proved it. This should be a big reminder to people that this name is to be taken seriously. When you looked at this group at the start of the day and you were like, oh, I don't know about the Anotand guy, you should be shaking your head in shame right now. Like, this guy, for me, was listed second place in this group. I truly stand by that, and he just showed why. Because for a lot of people, VortiX was meant to be number 2.
Now, and this is where it gets crazy. If we take a look at the standings of Group C, this group has Recon, Papipo, Anotand, and VortiX. We had a pretty strong play from Recon today, despite the final scoreline of that set. And, you know, only 2 of these players will advance into the playoffs. This is a rather stacked group over here, and KP, I gotta say, that winners match next week, Anotand versus Papipo, that's going to be an absolute banger.